I'm joined now by Brendan from the Mason Stone Yard, or even the Stonemasons Yard. My dyslexic never went away. Brendan, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Very
Okay, what is the Stonemasons Yard? What do you do up there?
It's basically a business I've started in this past 18 months, just up and coming new business again. After, I suppose, the boom, things got a bit harder. I had to rescale back, and I started taking
You only had to rescale back?
Yeah, slightly. So we started, and we're taking in old, mostly natural materials, recyclable materials, old street cobbles, curbs, flags from the inner cities where development was done, and we're bringing them back out to life again in gardens such as this. And
when you say, again, I'm just thinking of the cobblestones and some of the streets I grew up in Dublin. You know, they were literally dug up and obviously dumped in a pile somewhere.
That's right.
A lot of work obviously has to go into getting them back to cobblestones.
Yeah, a lot of work has gone into it, but there was a lot of history behind those cobbles, I suppose. Going back maybe a couple of hundred years, those cobbles were, there was men maybe doing hard time where they had to cut them by hand, or there was tradesmen who cut them by hand, and there was hours of work spent taking granite from the Mourne Mountains over to the UK and parts of Belfast and Dublin, and so there was a lot of hard labour went into making them, and there was a skill in making them. There were, with the granite's probably the hardest rock you can get. The Mourne granite would probably be the hardest rock available in this part of the world, And,
so what do you do with them? Great, you have all this stone in, you've recycled them, you have them looking like cobblestones again, and nice looking bricks. What do you then do with them?
Well, basically, like in the likes of the garden designs here, such as Barry's design here, you're putting in natural flowing pathways and entrances. We use them for entrances onto roadways for private houses. We use them for stonework on piers and buildings. So there's a various amount of things you can do with them. But
now, when you say you use them, do you just supply somebody with a pallet of them, or do you roll up your sleeves and you fit them as well?
Generally, we roll up our sleeves and get involved, but there isn't a problem if people want to take it. The good thing about the cobble is not really necessarily a specific cut, you know what I mean? They don't have to be all inch perfect, and every one is cut individually by an individual person, I suppose, as such. And a lot of people love the idea of putting them down in their driveway, or maybe around their houses, or around in place of, instead of, the more formal curbing now is the cement curbing, but people are now starting to put down the old curbing, because they've been about for millions of years, and they're still going to be about. The
tarmac has lifted, has bubbled and everything, and the stone is still there.
Yeah, it's great. We would have done a project there lately at Castle Leslie Estate in Monaghan, and it just fitted in so well with what was done a couple of hundred years ago. It was perfect for and they'll still be there in years to come.
And of course, in some parts of Dublin City now, where they dug up the cobblestones 50, 60 years ago and replaced it with concrete and tar, they're digging up the tar and they're putting back down cobblestones.
It's amazing, and in parts of the UK and parts of France, there was a project that we done lately there a few years ago actually, but the stone came out of Piccadilly train station in Manchester, and they brought in a man-made product from France or whatever it was, and it was a pretty good product at the time, but it's now been lifted again. They're actually putting back the original stone again, because it was there for 200 years, and this old product lasted about 12, 14 years, but the volume of people passing through it couldn't actually take the wear and tear, and they were saying it was a bit of a mistake.
Well, you're showing your wares off here. If somebody else wants to know what you do, how can they find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Well, as I say, I'm based in Glasgow in County Monaghan, and I'm trying to just, I suppose, work it from there in a small way back up again, you know what I mean? And that's where I'm based, and I hopefully will be opening a new yard where I'm working. The idea of the stonemasons yard really is, there are a lot of stonemasons in the North Monaghan, South Tyrone, South Armagh area who I have worked with, and they are looking for somewhere to show their work. So the yard will actually be where local men will have their stone on display, and they will come along and say to you, look, you can pick out a style or whatever, and then you go and you talk to the stonemason and work your prices out yourselves, and because some of it's an art that you just don't want to see dying, that I don't want to see dying, and I'd love
brings
to
character to bland houses.
Absolutely.
Well, Brendan from the Stonemasons Yard, thank you for your time here at the Taste of Cavan.